welcome back to another edition of TelescopeMan. As I promised, I was going to do a little short video on the rest of the grounding for the radios. Let's start with this little panel here. This was the simplest way that I could find to get the cables into the house, and it's just an MFJ pass-through panel. And as you can see, the coaxes come in on the outside of this panel, which is grounded. Alright, it's grounded. The panel itself is grounded to the ground rod, I'm going to show you. And then on the other side of the window inside the house, you know, you can just connect up your coax to it and run it to your either your antenna switch or you know, directly to whatever equipment. For instance, the cable you see on the left, the furthest coax, that's actually to a little shortwave radio, little holocrafters that I've got inside. So got a special antenna for that. So anyway, I'm using a pass-through panel. The panel itself is grounded into this ground rod right here, which is down about 8 feet into the ground. No simple way. There's some videos on YouTube that show you how to put this in using water. I wasn't that smart, and I had to use a sledgehammer to get it in the ground, but it's all the way down in there now. And by the way, this ground is usually kind of damp because it's back here where the sprinkler system is in the flower bed. So the ground is, you know, kept with water on it. It's not, it doesn't really dry out as I keep the plants watered. So that's always good to help the ground. So as you can see, I've got that braid coming right out of the window. Now that braid goes directly to the antenna tuner inside the house. So it couldn't be more than maybe 4 feet long, 5 feet long, something like that is the total distance of this silver braid that you see here. And of course it's clamped down onto the ground rod with a regular electrical clamp that you can buy at any kind of electrical supply store or Home Depot or places like that. And I am running one lightning arrestor, and you can see that lightning arrestor down there on the right hand side down there, and that goes to the shortwave antenna, which is way up above the chimney on top of the house. So I attached a lightning arrestor and grounded it to that rod for that particular antenna. Now, what you're looking at right here is a line isolator. It's a little device that basically stops common mode currents from coming on down the coax into the shack. So you can see I'm stopping it right here outside the shack. So let's kind of spin around and I'll show you the other antennas and how they come in here. But basically, drove a ground rod into the ground 8 feet down. It's a 10-foot ground rod, and then clamped braid to it. Now you may not be able to notice it, but I've got a 6-gauge copper wire, uninsulated, regular grounding wire. It's attached to this ground rod also, and it runs under the flower bed there around the house as far as I could get it around the house until I came to the driveway, and I didn't want to go under the driveway. But it's probably running around the house on the ground, yeah, probably 50 feet of that, and that just gives me a little bit more grounding spread out along the ground for this ground rod. I don't know if that's necessary to do, but I've always heard that it does lower the noise level if you've got some noise, it does help lower the noise level, and I really don't have much noise on my HF radio, so maybe it's working. Alright, let's take a look up here on the mast. I've shown this before in other videos, but just want to show it to you again. My radio club helped me install some of this. We ran a messenger line, a stainless steel wire, between this building and this building right here, and then we tied the coax to it, all right, to keep it up nice and high above the ground. You can see I've got a Comet GP9 dual band vertical, 17 feet tall, which I use for VHF, UHF. The little antenna on the side is just a backup. It's not really connected. It's in case this one fails, I can connect this smaller one up and still remain on the air, just an emergency. I've got a ground wire. You can see it coming down, and it comes down in the straightest way possible over to another ground rod, which I have over here. Again, 10 foot into the ground, and that is grounding the mast that the antenna is mounted on. So the mast is grounded to this ground post right here. Again with 6 gauge wire, grounding wire, and just ran it up, you know, and ran it up onto the, see if I can get out of the sun here a little bit and get you a little better shot. There we go. And it just basically attaches to the mast and grounds out that big vertical antenna there. The little box you see is my QSO King long wire, and again it's grounded into the mast and into the ground that I showed you a minute ago. So that's a long wire, all band long wire. I can get 180 meters on it, no problem, 160 meters, I'm sorry, and all the way to 10. So it runs over this tree, down to that fence, and then it takes a left-hand turn, goes down the fence. It's about 127 feet long. Again, a little end-fed long wire. That's what I use for HF. Seems to work quite well. Anyway, that's my grounding out here in the backyard. And again, the main ground is very, very near the radios, which are right through that window. And the braid is very short and straight, basically directly from the antenna tuner straight into the ground rod. All the other equipment is grounded into this piece of braid in a single point inside the shack. So all the equipment comes into this ground and directly to the ground wire. Okay, we're going to go inside now, and I'll show you a couple of. Of course, we're back here in the shack, and just to show you, there's that window, and you remember right on the other side of that window is that ground rod that I showed you just a second ago, and that's about how far the ground runs. It's just straight outside that window. So I tried to keep the rule, you know, short ground as straight as possible. Seems to have worked. I don't have any RFI in the shack. Even when I run the amplifier or anything else, the computer doesn't shut off, or the USB ports don't disconnect, nothing happens, and get no RFI back into the microphones or anything like that. So the ground system seems to be working very well. Anyway, short video, just talking about grounding. By the way, I'm using either 1/2 inch braid or 1 inch braid. The main one that you saw outside was 1 inch braid. So that's the main braid going outside. Anyway, have a great day. As I usually say, I wish you clear skies and 73, and remember to keep looking up to see the greatest show on earth right over your head every single night. See y'all later.